How we doing?
Good. How are you?
How difficult is it going to be to play this game with two quarterbacks who have been here for a week or less?
Yeah, I don't think any. Look, like last week, DiNucci did an incredible job. You know, Kyle Shermer, it was all hands on deck of just being able to go out there and operate. And he, he felt confident going in there. If we had to throw the ball, that he would have been fine. And Anthony obviously will do the same thing this week. Like, we'll have our guys ready to go, and I'll make sure if it's one play that they feel confident in, if it's 10, I'll make sure that I'm giving them the best opportunity to put their best football out there. And so we got in a couple days to kind of figure that out.
What did you like about the way Ray Davis played on Saturday?
I thought you can see a little different of a comfort level from week 1 to week 2. I liked how he, ran behind his pads, and was just another guy. He enjoyed being out there. I liked he wasn't running out of bounds. He was trying to be physical, seeing the holes. I thought his patience was good. It was just you can see again, a second game of preseason, but experience, just getting some of that live reps, getting the feel of it. It was really good for him. I was happy with how he played.
What was the biggest difference from week 1 to week 2 in the running game overall? Not just Ray, but from where you were against the Bears to where you were against the Steelers?
We got a yard. I think, not really. No, I think it was, again, it's just a lot of the how that we stressed all last week. Not necessarily from a game plan standpoint, but just us just doing the simple things and just the communication, us all being on the same page in terms of how we're IDing it. Receivers in the run game. I thought that was one of the best games I've ever been a part of seeing receivers block. And then so it allows you to continue to call that. But it was just more of just the guys just all being on the same page and them asking for it and just keep giving it to them. So I was happy with how they kind of handled it, and they took everything that we kind of talked about, even after the play on the sidelines, everything we talked about last week. They kind of took it to the game, and that was fun to watch.
Where do you think Zach Davidson's grown in terms of an all-around game? We obviously see what he can do as a pass catcher, but understanding the position asks for more than just that.
Yeah, I remember evaluating Zach coming out. He was a small school guy that also was a punter, and just to see a guy that feels comfortable playing the tight end position now, understanding, his growth in the run game, being able to understand angles and hand placement, and what he can do in the pass game, but just seeing. Look, I would have loved to have been in a lot more 11 personnel in the second half, but they were in base defense the whole time. So we were like, hey, we'll just go 12 the whole time. And Zach and Trey McKitty didn't blink, and Zach able to just run duo after duo after duo. And, you can see the growth in his understanding of how to play the position and not just be just an athletic tight end. And so it's we know his personality. We know how fun he is to just watch and be around, but just to see the physicality element come out was fun to watch.
You spoke about receivers blocking. With Keon being a rookie, where do you feel he's at right now in his blocking?
I love where Keon's at as a football player right now. It's obviously understanding where expectations are and everything. I understand where he got drafted and whatnot. I'm not always just focused on how the production is in a preseason game as opposed to seeing it on every day, every day in practice. There's certain things that we've asked other receivers to do. It's everybody in a little different role in terms of the run game. If you guys remember Keon coming out, he's one of the best blockers in the draft. Not saying you're drafting a guy to block, but having guys that can do a little bit of everything, where they can make plays as a receiver, they can block. It makes it a little harder on defenses to know, where guys are and what they're going to do when they're in those positions. And so I'm pleased with where Keon's at right now.
What's the biggest challenge for him right now, in your mind?
I think the biggest thing is just when you're getting into game plans, you got to eventually learn how guys are playing you, right? Like when you're not watching tape. Like I thought he did a good job last week going into practice, and you're doing some one-on-ones. You're going against Joey Porter Jr. and you're seeing how he kind of plays it, and the next time being able to, okay, this is how I think guys are going to play a guy like my size, and a lot of that sometimes changes throughout games. But especially for young guys as it is getting a feel of, hey, who are you going against? And and then knowing, what's in your tools and how they're going to be playing it against you, because it might be a corner on a 5'8" receiver. He's going to play it differently than they're playing Keon, and him just learning the game from that standpoint. Physically, he can do everything that we ask him for. Have no issues with anything physically. It's just a matter of then him just growing and getting the experience of how the game's being played, how guys are going to defend him, how they're going to change things as the year goes. And that's just for every rookie, but something that really just harping on with him.
Joe, one of the biggest question marks going into the season, going back to spring, was receivers. With all the changes that have taken place there, given the fact that MVS is out for week to week, and you've got Curtis Samuel also with turf toe, do you think this group has had enough time with Josh, even whether it's on the field or just the limited preseason time they had, to be ready for the start of the season? And how much do you in any ways do you wish you had a week or more time, or maybe 2 or a month?
Yeah, I mean, if you can give me more years and more weeks and more practices, more reps, I'll take all of that. But I haven't had questions about the receiver room since we've got them and put them together. And I love how they're working, how they're gelling, how they're playing together, the communication they have with Josh. And obviously just trying to get some guys healthy and figure that stuff out as the season goes. But Josh has confidence in that room, and they're on the same page with each other. And sometimes it might not be the physical element. It's more of the, hey, this is how I see how this guy's playing it. I need you in this spot. A lot of it, we can take advantage of the mental right now. And, and so in a couple weeks that they'll be ready to go, and I feel confident in that.
Joe, what were your takeaways from Mitch's performance? Obviously now he's dealing with the injury, but while he was in there during the game, what did you take away?
Yeah, it was unfortunate, obviously, with the injury. I thought Mitch has had a really good camp, and so there's a couple throws that he obviously would like back. You let him know. It was a there's a lot of emotions that go on in it, right? You're let know, hey, you're a starter, right before a game, and some of that is intentional, right? Where when you're a backup quarterback, you got to be ready to go in, at any given moment. But I thought he handled that. He handled that well. The guys in the huddle were good with him. He would have loved for us to be able to get in a rhythm, which always helps a quarterback. When you go 3 and out, it doesn't help. So obviously he's going to want the interception back for sure, and he knows that no quarterback wants to do that. But I wish we would have been able to sustain some of those drives, which would allow him to showcase a little more. But we got to be better. I got to be better from that. And obviously, unfortunately, he got injured, or else he would have been able to kind of play a little bit longer.
Hey, Joe, what do you want the starters to get out of this week's 3 practices?
To me, I know I'm kind of a broken record, but there's intention behind everything that we're doing right now, and so. I want them kind of approaching it and everything like they're playing this game this week, right? And so this is a mock week where, hey, it's training camp practices, don't get me wrong, but let's go into our groove and get into our routine on what a first and second down day would feel like. And then, tomorrow we'll get into situations, just get into that, and so that our practices are going to kind of reflect that. And so just, where, hey, don't get me wrong, a lot of our first month of the season is all, interesting weeks in terms of what is a normal game week, but just get them to get a feel of how the meetings are going to go, how practices are going to go, and then what we're doing behind it is more of just us cleaning up some things that we feel like we need to get cleaned up before we go into the season.
Joe, how do you balance getting 2 new quarterbacks up to speed while also making sure your offense, who's been here for months now, is moving in the right direction to be ready for week 1?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but this is why we coach, right? It's you gotta find ways to get your guys ready to go, and we have a lot of great coaches on staff, a lot of young guys that are taking. It's like, hey, we might have separate meeting rooms. I feel like the QB room, we got to start meeting in the team meeting room with how many people are in there now. But it's good. It's just finding ways to get these guys ready to play, and then getting them ready to play for, hey, this practice. So you're kind of balancing a bunch of different things, and so. The 2 guys that we brought in, I think they have the right mindset, the right approach. They understand, hey, what's important, and hey, let's focus on today's practice. Let's get these plays in. Hey, tonight we'll kind of crank out a little bit more of, hey, these are the things that are going to be in for this week for you. What are you comfortable with? And we'll kind of do that on week to week, but because we got to get the team ready to go, but we need them to be able to play good football on the end of this week.
Joe, how have you seen the leadership on your side of the ball develop? A lot had been made of losing the captains that you did, and Mitch and Stefan and Gabe. How have you seen the leadership develop, whether that be from Josh, who's kind of an obvious one, or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think we're in a really good place with the leaders on our football team, and I think a lot of that is just their approach, the work ethic. You know, like we have a good, healthy mix of guys that aren't scared to communicate, but also are going to work. You know, and so I think sometimes people, you know, there's leaders that, hey, just follow me, and there's some leaders that, you know, follow me but do the talking, and we have a healthy dose of people who are able to hold people accountable. We'll stand up, we'll say things, and we'll work, and people will want to follow them. And so I feel confident that we have guys in each position room that I can lean on to have a good pulse of the football team. But I also know that if they're saying something, they're also working. And so I really like where we're at from a leadership standpoint. And will always start with Josh. And as always, he's been incredible. And so he allows those guys to feel comfortable being able to be themselves and talk and communicate and take a leadership role, and that helps as an OC.
Does anyone come to mind in particular when you talk about that?
I think up front, you know, we have, you know, you talk Mitch, but like a center is always, you know, you're always hoping your center is a guy that can communicate, and Connor has done an elite job at that. He does a great job with the guys all being on the same page, you know, bringing David into the guard position. David does a great job of communicating. He's got Dion next to him and Connor. So seeing those guys, we're always going to go as our quarterback, but up front, as long as we're on the same page, we can get plays started. And, you know, I'm wearing the shirt, but you guys can see Matt Collins out there. Like, I think he goes about things the right way, and guys want to follow him. And I think you see a lot of guys that don't have shoes on, but it's not just because it's the way his work ethic is and his approach, and fan of the way those guys are kind of working.
At center, you do. I'm glad you brought that up because Alec has been working there a lot from what we've seen. He also has position flexibility. Do you see him more as a kind of backup center or kind of your swing guy around the line, and how you want to use him?
Yeah, I feel confident with him playing center and guard, and you know, it's the backup offensive line role is always like a tough position, right? You want to be able to, the more flexibility you have, the better opportunity is to make football teams. When you can be a left tackle and a right tackle, if you can be guards and center, it only helps you, and it puts a lot on those guys because, you know, it's not easy to get in a left stance and then get in a right stance. You know, I know it sounds like nothing, but that's a big thing. It's not easy to go from not making any calls to now you're at center making all the calls, and so it is a lot on them. But there's a reason the guys that were swinging are able to handle that, and to be able to go from center one series to guard one series, I've been impressed with how Alec's able to do that. And it's not easy in a game to be able to be ready to go for any of those positions, and so that's why we're kind of mix and matching all these guys right now.
Knowing it won't be Josh or Mitch, but how important, just maybe for the offense, to score a touchdown on Saturday?
I mean, I always want to score touchdowns. You know.
Done so yet?
Yeah, no, I know that. No, it's important. It's important because if we're scoring touchdowns, that means our guys are having success. And I know that in the long run, the statistics and the game results might not seem like anything at the end of the season, but for our guys, if we're getting into the touchdown, that's being able to showcase them, and they're able to party in the end zone, able to do that stuff. So it is very important to me. It's been important to me the last 2 weeks, even though it hasn't happened. But I'm not concerned with the results of the game, but I want our guys to be able to have success, and so that is important to me.
You're not the only team that doesn't play their starters or even their starting quarterback a ton in the preseason, and everybody makes up for it in different ways and how you practice. What do players miss out on in not getting, and I understand why you don't play them a lot in the games, you got to get everybody healthy for the start of the year, but the actual playing of a game, full-on tackle for the quarterbacks, extended time, not just Josh and you guys, but what's missed out on as you go into the regular season when you don't have that like we used to?
You know, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. It's are they up at all? You know, are they in street clothes? Or are they going through the warm-ups? Are they waking up, going through their routine, to me, that's just almost just as important as playing in the game. Excuse me. Just being able to, hey, wake up, I'm going to go stretch. All right, now we're getting to team takeoff. I got to get my mind ready to go. Unfortunately for Josh, he finds out, he's not playing, but I loved that he had to wake up and go through a night game, a process that I'm playing in a game, in the locker room, things were getting delayed, but hey, I'm playing in the game. And so to me, he might not have played in the game, but that's valuable. A guy like him, you don't blink as it is, but for any guys, even if they're not playing, us going through that approach is just as important. Yeah, when you're out there, you're getting hit, you're being able to sustain drives, you're trying to get in a flow. I'd love to say that's all important. We try to make our practices, where we're sustaining drives, doing everything with the exception of going to the ground. So as we try to make it as much as game-like as possible, but the one thing that you can't reenact is the routine that leads up to it. And so I think that's I'm appreciative of Coach making sure that we're going through all of that.
And Joe, you mentioned versatility for the backup offensive line being important. Where do you see that right now with Alec Collins? Like, what does he offer you? Where can you line up?
Well, he offers flexibility, because he can play guard and tackle, experience, and a mindset. And so, I've obviously I coached LSU, never coached him, but I know his personality and the way that he kind of plays. And you see a long run. We had a long duo, got the ball inside, I think, like the 7-yard line last week, and the receivers are celebrating with Ray Davis, and he has a little dance as he's running to him too. So he plays with the personality, and he's been really good for our room. But it's hard to have guys that can play guards and tackles, and so that's we're fortunate for that. I appreciate you guys.